All right. My sister-in-law gave me this 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro a few months back after she upgraded to an Apple Silicon Mac. I've been waiting for some time to try this device out in order to see if it still has legs. I've since spent the better part of 2 weeks using this laptop as my daily driver. In short, it performs as though it had been kneecapped, and I am so excited to never use this laptop ever again. Apologies, I'm using this laptop to read my script, so I will be looking down for a good amount of the video. Okay, so for key points, I have 3. The 2017 13-inch touch barless MacBook Pro sucks. Most every Intel MacBook can't hold a candle to any of the Apple Silicon MacBooks. And if your budget is around $200, go for a ThinkPad or a similarly designed laptop, similarly designed Windows laptop from a few years back. You can find good ones for the same price as this MacBook. However, if you can swing $300 to $350 and you're really intent on having a MacBook, pick up an M1 MacBook Air. It'll serve your macOS needs far better than this 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro could ever hope to. To start, I want to discuss this machine's specs. On hand is a mid-2017 MacBook Pro 13-inch with 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports. It is, in other words, a MacBook Pro 14,1, A1708, and MPX Q2LL/A. Accordingly, it has a 2.3 GHz dual-core Core i5-7360U from Intel, an Intel Iris 640 GPU, 8 gigabytes of LPDDR3, clocking at 2133 megahertz, 128 gigabytes of storage, and a 13.3-inch Retina display at 2560 by 1600 pixels. This display has 227 ppi, therefore meeting Apple's Retina moniker. They're the qualifier to be a Retina display, and it goes up to having 500 nits of brightness. This laptop, it's running the latest version of macOS Ventura 13.76, which is the most recent macOS that this laptop can run, obviously aside from using something like OpenCore to get a newer version of the OS on there. For the record, this computer, given that it has a 7th gen Intel CPU, it's not capable of running Windows 11 either, so that kind of should give you an idea for what we're working with here. Moreover, it has a 720p FaceTime HD webcam, and it supports 802.11ac, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth 4.2. Those 3 things should be able to serve you well to this day. My model, it's space gray. It has a weight of 3.02 pounds. It has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports on the left side, a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack for 1/8 inch TRS connectors on the right side, and between them is a pair of speakers, and between that is a 2nd generation butterfly keyboard and a 5.5 inch wide Force Touch trackpad. This battery in the non-touch bar version is 4,790 milliamp hours. Interestingly, the touch bar version has a slightly smaller battery than the non-touch bar version, wherever pricing is concerned. This laptop, its MSRP was $1,299 when Apple was still selling it. Just for inflation, this laptop would go for about $1,700 today, compared now to Apple's introductory 13-inch M4 MacBook Air that comes in at $999 or $899 with education savings. This 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro is a rather expensive entry-level device, which is unfortunately what it is. Even Apple's introductory 14-inch M5 MacBook Pro comes in at $1,599, meaning that 8 years apart, buying the entry-level 2025 MacBook Pro consumes less of somebody's annual buying power, assuming that their income grew solely in accordance with inflation. Furthermore, the entry-level MacBook Pro now is far more of a machine capable of doing more things than the 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro could have ever hoped to be. And so that's kind of why I am more so comparing the 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro to a modern MacBook Air as opposed to a modern MacBook Pro, because really the touch barless MacBook Pro is what the MacBook Air is now, if we're being real. Moore's Law versus 16 years of Apple MacBooks. Given that technology is expected to become cheaper and better over time, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise that the 2017 MacBook Pro is worse than any of Apple's MacBooks that they're currently selling. However, the argument can be made that the difference between a 2009 13-inch MacBook Pro and a 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro is not as significant as the difference between a 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro and a 2025 14-inch MacBook Pro in 2025. By this, I mean to say that in 2017, a 2009 13-inch MacBook Pro will fare far better than in 2025, a 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro. Growing up, I saw people using the original unibody 13-inch MacBook Pros for 10 years on end. Nowadays, seeing anybody with any butterfly keyboard MacBook is far more rare. This is because every single thing about the 2025 MacBook Pro is better than the 2017 MacBook Pro. For that matter, every single thing about the 2020 M1 MacBook Air is better. And at that, only 3 years apart. The same cannot be said about the 2017 MacBook Pro when compared to the 2009 MacBook Pro. At a very basic level, the 2009 MacBook Pro could be upgraded to have an SSD and even have its battery replaced, both of which are incredibly easy things to do. The fact alone that the 2009 MacBook Pro can have an SSD put in would have made it very usable in 2017. Additionally, considering how easily it would have been to replace the battery, it would also ensure that you could get significantly more life out of the device. Intel versus Apple Silicon in terms of power management. Nowadays, an Apple Silicon MacBook's battery life is far better, not only because the battery will typically be bigger, but instead that these Apple Silicon Macs are far more efficient than the Intel-based Macs could have ever hoped to be. The battery of the 2017 MacBook Pro I currently have on hand has 642 cycles, which is quite a lot. And even though the power pain in system information says that the battery health and condition is normal, the battery life is incredibly poor. Coming from my last MacBook Pro that I had been using for about 7 months, a 14-inch 2023 M3 Pro, the power management on this device is extremely lacking by comparison. The other day, when I was in class, I left my laptop to sleep for an hour and a half, and the battery went from being 100% to 50%. I didn't do a single thing with it, and the battery life was sliced in half after fewer than 2 hours. It then went from 50 to 35% in a matter of minutes thereafter once I started using the device. On an M series MacBook, this would never happen, and it was quite jarring to see this 2017 model behave in such a way. I had grown, admittedly, so accustomed to using Apple Silicon that I forgot about everything I used to do to conserve my Intel-based MacBook's battery. Additionally, the day after this happened, I charged my laptop all the way overnight, and I unplugged it in the morning and had it in my backpack for the rest of the day. I didn't use it once, and by the time that I went to use the laptop, it was completely dead. A brief word on butterfly keyboards. Not only is the power management on this device very poor, its second-gen butterfly keyboard is very loud. Additionally, it sucks to type on because there's no key travel, almost no key travel. This alone makes this laptop difficult to recommend if you need to type in a room with a lot of people or if you need to type anything at all. So if you do need to type, this keyboard is not for you. Accordingly, this next chapter is called Look Elsewhere if you need a laptop under $200. Considering this device's poor power management and its lackluster keyboard, I feel that your money can be better spent on many other laptops. Given that you can readily get this laptop on eBay in good condition for just about $200, you should explore other options with your $200. You can get thin and light ThinkPads from a few years ago for about the same price as this machine. Consider the E14 Gen 3 I bought yesterday for $120. You have a lot more options than this horrible 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro. Word to the wise. You can also manage to get a lot of Microsoft laptops from a few years back also for around $200, especially if you're a Facebook Marketplace hunter as I am. You can manage to find some pretty good deals, especially in Microsoft's Go line of products. I will recommend their Go line of products. I use the Surface Go, I believe the first gen. Very small, very portable, much nicer keyboard, and a whole lot more capable than this MacBook Pro I have with me now. And the power management is way better on Windows. Can you believe it? I can, because this laptop sucks. Harder design review. I will say the trackpad on this device is just about as good as any trackpad on any laptop you could get today. It's very nice to use. It's nice and large. It has a good size ratio, so length and width compared to the screen's length and height. So that's a very nice. Additionally, I really enjoy this laptop screen. This is a quality every Retina Apple product shares. Even the OG Retina displays from Apple look just about as good as any you can get contemporarily. These two qualities are quite impressive indeed. However, the bad keyboard, the lack of power management faculties, and an inability to upgrade the device, it truly hampers this and pretty much every Intel Mac since 2016. Additionally, I think it was a huge miss on Apple's behalf to not have all MacBooks have at least one Thunderbolt 3 port on either side of the device. You'll see two Thunderbolt 3 ports here, but no Thunderbolt 3 ports here. This alone is something that I am really disappointed in, and something I really only realized having coming from the Pixelbook Go, which has one USB-C port on each side of the device. I would reckon even if Apple had gotten rid of the 3.5mm headphone jack and instead replaced it with a USB-C port on the right side of every 12-inch MacBook, would have been a good move and one that would have more fit the brand direction at the time, given the move away from the headphone jack in their mobile and iOS devices. Apple Silicon MacBooks are just better. Continuing to harp on this device, this computer, it's oddly slow to leave sleep, and it continues to be slow for about 30 seconds after you log in when you wake it from sleep. After that, the laptop, it does become more responsive. However, it still feels significantly slower than any Apple Silicon laptop, regardless of what you're doing. The reality here is that the ARM-based Apple products are simply more snappy as a result of their architecture and SoC design. The last issue that I take with this laptop is that its speakers are rather quiet when compared to the Apple Silicon laptops. They sound relatively accurate, especially at lower volumes. However, it seems that they have a somewhat limited amount of volume behind them, especially when you want to keep things accurate. Again, compared to the new designs in Apple's M series lineup, these speakers, they don't stand a chance whatsoever. 4 key things. In my Pixelbook Go review, I stated that I believe there are 4 key aspects to a laptop. They are, in this particular order, 1, amazing battery life, 2, impeccable hardware design, 3, monster specs, and 4, great software. I went further to say that amazing battery life and impeccably designed hardware are about all the qualities you need for a machine to do well if all you're doing with it is web-based productivity. Any thin and light laptop you can buy used for $200 or less should at least be able to offer these things, assuming its battery is in at least somewhat good shape. This laptop, it has horrible battery life. and its hardware is not impeccably designed, or even well designed for that matter, for the reasons alone that its keyboard and port selection are severely lacking. So while this laptop may have had a highly accomplished hardware design department behind it at Apple, it attempted to do too much at the time with the tools they had available. That is the sore truth about Apple's MacBooks between most of 2015, starting with the 12-inch MacBook, and most of 2020 with Apple's Intel MacBooks. Again, look elsewhere for a laptop. I implore you, look elsewhere for a laptop. If you really need a MacBook and you're considering this 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro, please dedicate an additional $100 to $150 to get an M1 MacBook Air. That is if you're sold on getting a Mac. Regardless of the quality of any 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro you're looking at, even if the 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro is brand new, you should still get an M1 MacBook Air. And if you can't bridge the gap in your budget and you're open to using Windows devices or originally designed for Windows devices and then putting Linux on it, you should really look at getting a ThinkPad or a similarly designed device and see if that can fit your needs, because this 2017 MacBook Pro absolutely cannot. Hey, looks like you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for that. You can find us here on YouTube and on Instagram as well. Links in the description.